Joined now by a dear old friend of the program, Brian Altounian. He's the founder of Atlas Voyager Wealth Maximization Strategies. Brian, welcome back to the program.
Don, so great to see you. Thank you for having me back. So great to be here.
I was trying to contemplate how long it's been. It's been about 10 years since we had you on the show.
Oh my, it's been that long. It flies, Don. Time just flying.
But what are you doing now with this Wealth Maximization Strategies company?
Well, you know, when I was on MoneyTV last, I was in the mode of helping early stage technology companies raise money and get out to the public market, and still have you know, my hands in that area a little bit as well. But for really the last 8 years, I've been working in financial services and helping folks, individuals, families, businesses, high net worth folks, business owners tap into the areas of life insurance and annuities, but also looking at how to build wealth maximization strategies for them, for individuals, in many cases for their companies as well. So that's really Atlas Voyager is sort of a blend of raising money on one side and taking care of folks and their personal financial needs as well on the other side, sort of a blend of the two.
What specific challenges are you running into these days raising money for companies in this uncertain economy?
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, it feels like 2001, 2008. Kind of feels like we've been here before. These once in a lifetime challenges in the market have now happened 3 times in the last 20 some years, and so. The interesting thing is that a lot of companies seem to be responding the same way they did back in 01 and 08 and 09. But there's a little bit more seasoning to it. So it's like we've been here before. We know we're going to come out of it. Some of the challenges, I think, in raising money at this very moment is I think some investors are concerned about what the prognosis looks like for the next year or year and a half. I think there's still volatility in the market. They think there's still recession era, pullback. I know we're about possibly to have a rail strike, which would impact supply chain even more. And so investors are looking at, I hate that term. Remember the term, Don, keep your powder dry. I'm trying to keep a hold of their money, thinking of the companies they've already invested in. They may have to go back in and bail them out during this cycle. So still invested, still interested in looking at companies, but also a little bit of hesitancy just to see how things turn around for second quarter of next year.
Are there any specific industry segments you're looking at more closely?
Well, I've always been looking at what's the industry for the next 5 to 10 years. For me, it's something I learned from a mentor many, many years ago. If you could find a company that had some sort of either proprietary technology or some market leading advantage that they were going to have a place to play, a position at a first mover in an industry that was going to move over the next 5 to 10 years, you put yourself in a good opportunity for growth. And so now, obviously over the last several years, cryptocurrency, the NFT space, that's interesting. Where the entertainment industry is in kind of a flux. I think energy and clean water is always going to be something of interest because we claim that's where our biggest challenges are. So companies that are innovating in those particular areas are areas of interest.
Well, it's interesting. In the 10 years since you last been on the program, we've seen the next big thing come and go with green energy, with cannabis space, with crypto space. What do you think is the next big thing?
Well, I'm just going to sound counter, but I'm a huge fan of what's coming in the NFT space. And the reason why I say this, like the cryptocurrency challenge has been, regulatory, sort of the regulatory environment or lack of regulatory issues and a decentralized currency, which I always felt was a bit of a challenge because our currency is based, our currency is based on, some cases political and fiscal guidelines, but our currency is always compared against other countries' currencies. Crypto's goal is to sort of decentralize that. that's going to be a challenge because countries they all have to be on board for that to work. And the only way they're all going to be on board is if there's regulation. So that's why crypto, I think, is still having a bit of a challenge, still having a little bit of, people there with weak stomachs are not hanging out in the crypto space. NFTs, I think, are really interesting because the NFT idea, not the NFTs that we've seen, not apes or images or digital imagery. That was sort of the beginning of NFTs. What NFTs are, Don, are really, they're smart contracts that are etched on the blockchain. And the blockchain technology is still, although that's the backbone of crypto, it is still the thing of the future. Blockchain technology is still going to help to dictate where things are going. And NFTs, as a smart contract written on a blockchain, those are still, areas of tremendous interest because there's a lot of things that you can do with NFT. They are starting to acquire real estate, and anywhere there's a transaction that can occur, the contract that defines the transaction written on the blockchain, it's kind of tough to get out of it. There's total transparency along the chain, which is why it makes that so interesting. So the future of NFTs are going to be something to keep an eye on, especially in my case. I'm sort of blending old worlds. In my case, where I've spent a lot of time in the entertainment industry, interesting to see how people are going to be funding and building on utilizing NFT technology in the future. To me, that's still got some legs, and we're in the early stages. And I'll just say this last thing I'll say is, me, Don, I could talk forever on certain subjects. But with crypto having the challenges that it's having, it's interesting to see major brands signing and announcing, not just signing, but announcing major NFT deals. Adidas, Nike, Disney, Starbucks, where they're trying to bring folks who are participating on a digital, in a digital landscape, and still having them have some advantage in the real world. And that's that connection between what's happened in Web 2 and what's happening in Web 3. We're going to see more of that. You acquire a digital image, which means you buy membership to something, and then as part of that membership, you're going to have some advantages in the real world, discounts on merchandise and coffee in the case of Starbucks, that type of thing. So more to come on the NFT space. I think that's still very interesting as Web 3 sort of takes hold, and people are looking at how they consume their content and their media and how they buy groceries and how they get their education. A lot of interesting stuff coming down the road.
Real quick, for companies that are seeking capital for expansion, for development, what's the best advice you can give them right now?
Well, I think that there's a blend. I know a lot of folks are shy away from debt. I'm a big fan of debt financing still. I mean, the interest rates moving up make it a little bit of a challenge. So you've got to really do a cost benefit analysis of the cost of that debt. But debt financing done properly, company credit lines, things like that, where you can get access to cash flow to maintain your working capital, is always key. If you're going to give up some equity, make sure you've got a good partner that you're talking to, a good partner that's going to support your effort and not look to cram you down. Biggest challenge we used to have in the public market space, Don, was having folks come on board, provide some capital, and then immediately look at how can they use that as an ATM and jam down ownership and drive founders into a very difficult spot. I'm not a big fan of that. So it's really making sure you've got good partners on the equity side, and look at debt financing as a solution to get through this sort of difficult process, or this recession period that we're entering and hopefully will quickly be coming out of.
Atlas Voyager Wealth Maximization Strategies, Brian Altounian. Brian, always such a pleasure having you in the program. It's been too long. Let's not make it that long the next time.
Let's do this regularly, Don. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.